Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. Are we on? I believe we are on. I believe we are live. And let me turn that the hell off because you're probably getting an echo there. Okay. That is muted. There. All right. So, took a little bit longer than I was anticipating, but we are live and worldwide here. Kick.com/Joseph-D32 and Twitch.tv/Joseph_D32. It is I, your favorite Oldhead Gamer, back here to play some more Undertale Yellow. And, while I don't know exactly where we are in the game, I know we've got to be pretty damn close. We've got to be pretty damn near to the end of it. So let me switch over to this window right here. And... oh, hell. Let me launch the game. That might help. That's not what I pressed, but okay. There we go. Let me use the Sizer app to blow this up for me so I can have a better view. Shouldn't make any bit of a difference to you guys. It should fit into my little Titantron, which, by the way, got somebody working on upgrading. I'm going to be upgrading some of these here graphics. Okay, so last we left off, we were fighting a robot boss monster. That typically is the way this has been going since I've been playing Undertale. We get to another boss, not be able to beat him on that night, so we had to come back and try it again. So that's what we're gonna do here. But each time... hey! Who did that? Clover! You can hear me, right? I'm gonna try to blast a hole in this thing. It's not working, is it? You are not able to blast a hole in said thing. Let me move this over here. Crunch this down just a bit so I can see. I want to be able to see both my Kick and Twitch chat at the same time, and OBS is kind of iffy with that. So there we go. It's gonna take a lot to break through, and to think we're almost free of this place. Just look around for a switch or keypad. There's always one near doors. Main power source not found. Initiating emergency backup power. What was that? Did I just hear Axis? Yes. Yes, you did. You tried to shut me down. I have had it with you and your friend thwarting my plans. I am this close to directing all my steam into my root finger. And yes, I am yelling. My typography box just lacked the exclamation point character. keychain, but at least I have question mark. Hey Clover, I don't think we can outrun this guy any longer. Please try to find a peaceful way to outwit him. I'm sorry, but I don't want Chichen's creation smashed to bits. Outwit, maybe outgun, never. I am ticked off and out of the lethal options. So prepare yourself. I am attacking now. What? My programming is preventing me from attack. It says you are not a current threat or resisting arrest. Forget this. Here, I will make you a threat. Hold this. It suits you. There. Now you have a drawn weapon. Loopholes are wonderful, are they not? No. Time to die. Access bottle 014, ready to attack. Ready to trusty shield, whatever awaits. What are you doing with that lid? It was not supposed to be useful. That is cheating. Access flows into one of his vents, cleans and dust. You don't know how. Ready your trusty shield for whatever awaits. Guys, I've been working many hours this week. Like, lots. It'll be, only the second time this week. We get speaking robotically now. What was that? What did I say? Is not a word. Why did I say that? Death by metal and magic. Metal. Ready to Don't worry, Spider didn't. I did it again. Ow. This is what you're doing? Of course it is. Do not shut me again. Okay. Not great at his job. If he could frown, he would. Stack on the gravity granola. You could really take all 9.8 meters. Your HP was maxed out. Moving. Orange. Hey, I was moving, asshole. I'm starting to regret giving you that lid. Could you please drop it?
Hell no.
Just kick it into the firing pit below us. Simple. Hold your nose down. This is what life is supposed to do. Reach me. Smash that. Okay. Ah! Potato chips. This one, eat them. Eat you, smack that. Damn it. That is enough. Unbeknownst to you, I brought a backup line. Portable generators, 6-bit battery. Good luck. Over, I'm almost through. Whatever you're doing, it seems to be working. Keep at it until he's out of juice. I can hear you. You two think you are so smart. Ha! I do not run on juice. In fact, I do not run at all. I roll, obviously. Seriously? I am reaching unheard levels of tick. Level 7 at least. Your fault. I'm gonna do beef jerky. Like that. Ah, the hell with it. I mean, I gotta survive one of these at least. Or not. Fudge! Fudge. Brush yourself off, Clover. Time to put an axe in axes. Damn it. What was that? What did I say? It's not a word. Why did I say that? Smells like an unfortunate barbecue. Dead. It does not matter that you have blocked 99% of it. That 1% that you missed kills you. Dead. What are you doing with that lid? Hey! Hey! Bullshit, I was moving! Yeah, that attack is some bullshit, because if it's orange, you're supposed to move. That worked too. Would have got hit with that one too. I'm not so sure. Fuck. Let's see. This attack pretty much. Attack requires pixel perfection. Shut the fuck up, Flowey, alright? Fuck you. Fuck. Fuck. Survived it anyway. Alright. How? I was moving. Obviously, right? Cool. Fuck. Shit. Fuck. One. Screw you, screw you, screw you, screw you, screw you! Fuck. Yeah! You would not like me at low battery. I am warning you, do not drain my battery. And there we go. Good job holding your own while I was occupied. Actually seems pretty dazed. One more shot should do him in. Let's end it. I have no fucking healing items left. Beep beep. Shutting off strenuous emotions to save power. Ah. What did you do to me? I don't feel an utter murderous rage anymore. I do not know what to do with myself. Suppose I will stare at you blankly until you do something. Plan B. Sure what to present your metallic creation. Of course. The Axis. What? How do you feel about second dates? Like a calendar? What is this? This feeling. Uh-oh. Soulmate located. I mean, you know, I made her to be pretty attractive, right? Right? Shapely, right? Kind of a big head, I suppose, but hey, you know. Perfection personified. Where has this beauty been all my life? Only the shimmer, the complexion, the curve. Yeah, okay, that's enough. Whew. Over. Let's stop this up. Emotion, it feels so nice. I must thank you for opening my eyes. I had no idea such wondrous sights existed. I finally reached a level of civility. Can I keep them? Oh, slow down. Here. I would like to know a secret. But will only go out together. Their name is okay. Give it a shot. Hello, my name is Axis. What is your name? You're so funny. Want to get married? Hey, remember what we talked about? They said yes. What? I'm honestly just as surprised as you. This rocks. Okay, then I'm happy for you. Rain on you. Parade. Over and I have to go. Go where? Hotland. Just a business trip. Well, I wish you a pleasant journey then. Battery extremely low. Please recharge. Oh, suppose I should go do that. Recharging will restore me back to my factory state, but added human on tall lady to authorized list. There. Now on, I will not attempt apprehension next time we meet. Thank you, Hector. Have a good life. I will try. Oh, one more thing. You said your husband was my creator. Would you tell him that I miss him? He was always very kind to me. Yeah, I'll tell him. Thank you. Goodbye. All right. Well, things hold to form. Where I beat the boss from my last that I couldn't beat last stream, and I gotta say that was pretty entertaining. Glad we could bypass Axis without destroying him. Turns out you're a pretty damn good leader, Clover. I don't know why I doubted. All right. see our exit up ahead. We're close. A road ahead. Not venturing off the path. Not enough Steamworks for today. Actually made it. Let's hope this elevator works. Next stop, the lab. So what are you planning to do at the lab? Oh, okay, Starla. Starla, what are you doing here? King and I were planning a return party. That was a great idea, especially for Canuck. Very kind of you. Yeah. Would your old house is spruced up? After that, what's your fun? Oh, I was asleep on the floor and spotted something. An almost invisible trapdoor entrance. It's actually going on. What really happened to me? No. Why? This can't. Quit mumbling to yourself and speak up. Why did you name Clover? I have to go. Clover, come on. Saroba! Ed, take Clover back home. She's after her. Right. Hmm? All the way back here, huh? Never traveling via laundry chute again. Ed, you're back. And Clover too? Worried sick about you. We're stuck. The robot ran away, so he chased after her. Alone? Why did you let him do that? Star knows Saroba more than anyone, Murray. Well, I'm not so sure of that anymore. Over. Murray messaged me about you being in danger. So I dropped what I was doing and flew over here. Why'd you get Feathers involved, Murray? I just thought she deserved to know. She can help. Thank you for reaching out. I heard that you found something in Saroba's old house. What was it? We didn't have the time to look over everything closely, but it raised some serious concerns. Papers, tapes, belonging to Chujin. All way too scientific for me. I get the feeling Junior Jumble might be too scientific for you, but anyway. Clover and I can scope it out. No way. I was told to keep Clover here. There's a potential threat to their life. There's always a potential threat to their life. If anyone can fix this, it's Clover. I mean, facts. Fine, just stay on track. Can't have them run away or nothing. You know the way? I believe so. Okay, we'll meet you there. I still have to finish explaining everything to the group. Till then, come on, Clover. Before we go, I need to apologize. I should have let Saroba take her. I really thought I could trust her. We all did. And what I had to take care of in Snow was far too important. You know what? It doesn't matter. Let's focus on what Ed told us. Third, regarding Chujin, he said, surely it's nothing, right? Chujin was almost like a father. Or where I'd be in life without him. pagoda? Wow. Eugene invited me over back in the day. House is incredible. Yeah, let's get inside and see what the fuss is about. Ask where the papers and tapes are located, huh? I mean, it might have done some good to know where the hell we're going. I guess we could take a look around. Let me check something real quick. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure. Cool. All audio is going over as it should. That is good. That's good. We want that. Okay. Should be state. We're talking to the other side. Locked, huh? Strange. Hidden Star took another route. Oh, okay. What are these windows? Open the door. It's empty. Okay. Can't stand looking at that. Just move on. You search the night. Find a folded up PSA which you stash in your mailbag. Dear citizens of the underground, we are calling for fallen down monsters to be sent to Hotland for important scientific research. Should you choose to participate, your loved ones will be treated with utmost respect, their condition heavily monitored, and you regularly notified of their status. You lie. This is a chance for tragedy to be turned into opportunity. For monster kind to finally see the light of the surface thanks to its citizens' invaluable bravery and sacrifice. For your consideration, Royal Science Commission. Delta. Robin knows what she likes, huh? Usually I'd be envious of such intense resolve, but I'm not so sure it's good trade anymore. Are these readable or no? Reminder of your duties back home. Part of you wonders how the other part has moved on. Kids shouldn't mess with knives. Kids shouldn't mess with guns either. People might be guilty of child endangerment. You open the refrigerator and find some leftover corn chowder. Take it. Is that hungry? Then it's supposed to open it. Okay. Got some corn chowder. Old-fashioned gas oven, best want a house fire. Decisive, devoted, determined. Fireplace is making already warm house warmer. Kind of productive in a climate like this. Still, it's beautiful. Freshly trimmed. Okay, Reynolds. Hmm? What do you see? Hey, think something's under there? Alright then. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Whoa! Good eye, Clover. Spooky. Well, after you. Oh my. What is all of this? Formulas. Soul research. Hold on, look over here. Tapes. Each one has a date on it. You know, maybe this is all a big misunderstanding. Yeah, that's probably it. I'll just watch these and clear the air. Greetings, this is Chujin. I don't have much time these days for my opposite. No idea if anyone can see it best to document it. That is all for now. Signing off. This is Chujin. Today I traveled to Snowden with my daughter on a visit. While I was busy, Naka wandered off to play with her visitors. It happened. Few petting hounds ran up to her, saying that a human had entered the area. The human attacked the monster Naka was with. So close. Could have been next. No one there to protect her, not even me. I just don't understand. Humankind already won by trapping us down here, yet they keep twisting the knife. This cannot continue any longer. Today, I am looking into stopping this perpetual injustice once and for all. This is Future. Programming was buggy, but I know I could have ironed it out with a few more iterations. Why am I punished for trying to take our struggle seriously? I feel as if I'm the only one who hasn't forgotten or chosen to live in ignorance. I told Stroba I was retiring. I can't let her think less of me. But enough. It is the past. Let's live in the present and plan for the future. Prove I can save monster kind another way. This is true. In user research, I've made a breakthrough. Boss monsters. They may be the key to monster kind survival. I was able to reach this conclusion because I carry the boss monster gene. It means my soul is much stronger than that of other monsters. More importantly, boss monsters are immortal until they produce offspring. Right now, monster kind is few in numbers, but compared to humanity. Right now, monster kind is few in numbers compared to humanity. But if anyone would become a boss monster like me, like as a nation, an army, we could finally possess enough power to take the surface back. This involves the fusion of human soul and a boss monster soul. Perhaps a serum would be extracted which could transform any average monster. Unfortunately, I have not gathered enough proof that said serum is possible. Must be important. This is true. soul has deteriorated. I don't know how much longer I have it. I believe my theory holds stronger than it ever did. This is a message to my you. No one else will listen. Look for the next human who falls down here. Someone pure of heart. Uncorrupted. Need to obtain their soul. But not just anyone. You must have a boss monster soul nearby to fuse with. You'll need. Search for a willing boss monster in the underground. Someone else. Please. He needs to live a happy life, unaffected by my endeavors. So, the entire time, Saroba, I see your game. I see what you're trying to do. Oh. Oh my gosh. I never knew. He never mentioned. Clover, we have to go. Right now. Come on. So, you figured it out? Robo was trying to carry out a plan to get left. Something involving Clover's soul and a boss monster soul. What the? Like, what the mission to retrieve Kanako? Of course, I'm lying about finding Kanako. That's the alarming part. Kanako is alive and well? Alive? Am I missing something? Long story. She fell down sometime ago. The robot sent her to the lab in hopes of remedy the situation. I had no idea. Okay, where was the last place you saw Saroba go, Ed? You ain't taking Clover straight to her, are you? That's exactly what she wants, right? Yeah, Clover needs to stay safe with us. You can't accomplish her goal if Clover's nowhere to be found. We aren't going to let her accomplish her goal. And anyway, the Wild East is the tourist destination, a public place. Colleagues probably know a human is in the underground by now. Clover stayed here, they would eventually tear the town up. Better to be on the move, yeah? Right. Look, I need to fly ahead and scout out the situation. So again, where did the two go? Good old thing. Clover, you were there. Where did they go? Lab, most likely. That line's up. Hotline days. Hey, I gave Star my word. Let him do it, Ed. Clover's the only one who could put this to rest. Alright. I took the westmost elevator at the steamworks. You can use a laundry chute to get there quicker. That elevator's destination is near the core. Ask around if someone spotted which direction they went. Wait, we need to go too, right? We need all the help you can get. Appreciate the offer, but please don't. This might get dangerous. Stay here and keep the townsfolk happy, like you always have. Okay, but please be safe. I'll try. Thank you. All your help. Thanks for all your help. But if you lock me in a jail cell for hours on me. Hey, what a friend's for. I can think of a few things. I mean, yeah, no problem. Clover, meet me at the rooftop of UG Apartments East. We'll figure this out, I promise. Wish you luck with this. Seriously. Yeah, I bet we'll all be catching bandits again shortly. I'll be sure to save you a spot at our next nap time. And just don't do anything stupid. See you later, deputy. Oh. Howdy. Long time no see, buddy. I want to tell you something. been weighing on my mind, so I truly mean it when I say, told you so! Sorry, couldn't pass that up. I know this is the part I tell you to ignore Soroba, but I have a strong feeling that wouldn't sway you at this point. Honestly, I'm starting to want to see this play out. After all, that Fox wants to waste your soul on a science fair project? No good. I'm in your corner like I've always been, so don't worry. We'll get rid of her and continue down our path. Easy peasy. It'll all work out in the end, pal. Okay, but what's on the other side, though? Oh, you can't go that way. All right. Shujin gets a kind of best of us. All right, well. Where you off to, mate? Any space for a +1? Just checking the front first. See what the world has in store for you. Oh, yes. Here we go. Very specific reading, too. These are rare. Approximately 2 minutes. It will be 1934. Well, I hope that knowledge is helpful. 7:34 p.m. Pacific. Beware my pictures, traveler. I do not have any treasure hidden within my shell. Why do monsters fascinate me? You're not caged within these fences, traveler. It is a choice. It's nice to live in a familiar place with a pack. It's nice to be fed and taking pictures of it. What's going on at the old Kitchen residence? Unusual number of monsters missing. This is never a bad time to pay your respects. It really reminds me of kind of. There we go. I don't see myself improving anytime soon. Out of order. Please stop feeding it money. Okay. Mew Love Blaster? The fuck? Mew Love Blaster. Dash to safety. Give it your all. Shoot, hold. Void sadness. Spread the joy. I heard.
Mew Mew Love Blaster. See you later.
Oh, right here. Yo, what do you want? I'm in the middle of a gaming sesh. Oh, you're a kid like me. But you're good at these machines. Have you tried out Mew Mew Love Blaster? It's addicting. I suck at it though. There's a final boss, but I've never seen anyone reach it. Totally kick his butt. Excuse me. Maybe, but child's trying to pick me 3 happy monsters. Precious family. By me. I need to stock up. I need items. Or does one acquire items? There. Probably to the Wild East. Losing. Can't murder dance, huh? Fair enough. Turn over the fence, huh? I'm on the winning side. Bet you'll handle this robot like it's nothing. Playing it all wrong. You're supposed to grab the power ups, not avoid them. Also, Mew doesn't shoot bullets. Where's the bullet? So obviously, it's pretty deep voice. Clearly. I was still humans such as yourself violated stain in the underground. Popular route for their annihilation. So much loss, so much grief. The actions of humankind are forever just not this. Only to decide once Keen Asgore could obtain 7 of their souls in judgment wrought on the surface. Then you wonder, how can a town like the Wild East exist in such a society? Well, it isn't without its controversy. Most are indifferent, preferring not to acknowledge it. Some make their opinions very clear, stating that the towns make light of a serious situation, or even that we're traitors to monster kind itself. Rather harsh, right? I believe everyone who participates is just fascinated with the surface world, whether it be historical, plain old escapist. Nothing wrong with finding an appreciation for such things the way I see it. My opinion on humans? I spent most of my life disliking humans outright, justifiably so. But as I've aged, I've pondered over my bitterness. But that perhaps this view is more nuanced than it first appears. But even with all my years, I still haven't reached the other side, if I ever will. You know that I dislike the nature that drove humankind to do what they did, the violence, selfishness. But that nature can reside in anyone. At the end of the day, it's about an individual's character, see? Exactly. Whether or not they carry civility and respect within their soul. So far, I see these traits in you, so I've given you a pass. Anyway, it'd be foolish for me to eliminate potential patrons. I have money to spend. Urgent. Hey Clover, something's up. We made up with the posse as planned. All was going well, but then I began worrying about you and Saroba. That's when I got the idea to break into Saroba's old house, spruce it up to celebrate her and Kanaka's eventual return. Well, when Ed was sweeping around, he found some kind of secret room. Seems like it belonged to Fusion. We didn't have time to dig into its contents, but all I know is it worried him. Well, at least for now. But we just start over. Nails. still some chloroform, you know how it is. Some chloroform, you know. Club or die? Remind me. My memory is not great. I've taken I've taken I've taken a few shots to the head, put it that way. Welcome aboard, number one. And then yeah, remind me. I'm sorry. Again, I you know, been smacked in the head a few times. Club or die? All good, mate. Did you used to have a different name or different? Sometimes. I'm not sure which one is closer to. Maybe it was the other one. Return to the laundry room. Okay, so that was that the I know this tune. All three, okay. Recognize the area. Access is awesome. Love Danza. Crab power. Keep going. Crab power. Gotta be on the guest list. Everybody knows my name. He claims me. Boy, you want the club, you're gonna have to wait in line. That is, unless you're on the VIP guest list. I doubt it, but it wasn't worth the check. Would you look at that? I got a lad here, looks just like you. Go on, then. Ah, it is you. Welcome to my club. I am glad I remembered to put you on the guest list. Join us in the dance, will you? Move so hot, my worries are melting away. Hee smooth with it. All right. Freaking suck at dancing, eh? It'd be like that. Hey, got me chilling about my brand new house. That's right, just bought this sucker. I'm down in the dumps lately, so I thought it was time to move on. Do something nice for myself, you know? Highly recommend doing something nice for yourself every now and then. It's therapeutic. Music producers only. I mean, mighty roadblock stands in the way. Anytime now, the bouncer's memory of me will come rushing back. Surprised it's taking this long. Feeds food, spoon feeds fun to me. That'll be the day. Oof. Oh. Oh, okay. Oh, UG Apartments. Oh, howdy. We're nearing the castle now. What an eventful day. And for kicks and giggles, why don't we tally up your death toll? Drum roll, please. Bada. Bada, 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 bada. You died 5 times. Wow. I wasn't here to help. This would have all been a disaster. Me jumping down a chasm gung-ho wasn't a bright idea. But hey, all's well that ends well. All of them, in fact. I think it's because letters are going out of style, but nah. The company's just switching up their business model. Direct delivery to citizens' mailboxes from now on. Convenient, kind of bittersweet. Doing my daily walk to the old station. This just means everyone keeps their jobs. That's good news. Usually a chill dude. Today has not been my day, let me tell you. First, the attendant needs my name so she can save me a room. Mr. Cursor, I reply. Some kind of warlock? What? Warlock? With visible confusion. Roll that 10-sided die as much as the next guy, but no, I'm Mr. Cursor. Turns out she thought I said Cursor like I was going to hex the joint. I didn't need her input on my iconic name, but whatever. So then, I walk over to the elevator and head back to new home. It's busy, so I wait, and literally 3 hours pass. Next thing I know, the elevator opens, but oops! Mr. Cursor has a tendency to time out and fall asleep every 5 minutes. So I missed my one chance. I'm stuck here and I don't know when I'll ever get to go home. Like I said, it'd be like that. It is, yo! What's up, huh? Currently on break, admiring a hard day's work. Taste the mop water. Being evicted. Lighted notice under the door, and I'll add it to the scrapbook. Who's there? I'm in the middle of robbing this nice apartment. Come back when I've escaped. Yes, hello. That mail well with my package? Skip the rhyming and leave it at the door, please. Speaking of bits and bytes. Welcome to Bits and Bytes. Buy something, will you? Monster candy. Oh, I only got 5G. A Deltarune patch. Freaking cave, it's always dark. Rather sensitive subject, I don't really know. Or yell, divorce the king. Hilarious. Buttons, disrespect. The man's not right. The man's not right. Such a handful. Am I right? Get it? Sorry. Whoa. Whoa, hey. Wind me up, Biz. Wind me up right now. Excuse me, patron, but Buttons doesn't appreciate that word. It's not considered very nice where he comes from. Take your filthy mouth to the dump where it belongs, or I'll shut you up right here and now, you expressionless infant. Damn, bro. Now, Buttons, we talked about this. Finish the phrase. We don't punch who have punched. I know. Working on Buttons' anger management. It's a slow process, but I think he'll get it sooner or later. I don't see what's so wrong with unleashing rage upon my enemies. I honestly don't. It's simple. Being kind to other leads to more profit to the shop. Maybe I could try a little harder, you're right. Stretch of land which happens to be hot. Done. Harry explained. Doing a disservice to the rich history Hotline has to offer. Got rich history, alright. Of course, it's built the place. But for good reason. There are many impressive landmarks here, like the lab, the spider house, UT apartments, elevators 1 through 7, conveyor belts, rocks. Yep. Lab is located a good distance away from here on level 1. It's where the brilliant Dr. Alphys conducts important work for the king. I have a theory that some of the weird food in the underground stems from experiments gone awry in that building. Yeah, like what? Ever heard of a thing called instant noodles? It's a freaking square that turns into edible worms when you put it in water. Science gone wrong! Poison! Has to be! I heard it's delicious. Have you tried it? Sometimes I wish you were. Anyway, reaching the lab has been a pain lately. A lot of traffic. Almost like something's in the air. Something new. You think? Much changed around here in ages. Trust me, I've lived through it all. You have? Buttons, how old are you? I've seen war, Bits. Huh? Honestly, I don't know much about the former queen. Her whereabouts, how she's doing. Or mystery. Of course, it isn't any of my business anyway, so I haven't properly looked into it. Seen your stash of gossip magazines. Don't lie to the customer. I mean, one gets curious, of course. That's all, really. I love reading them as much as you do. So spicy, right? To be a flyer on the wall during the I'm sure she's made a fine life for herself. Fluffy Buns is the shining kid of our nation. One of the main reasons we're so close to breaking the barrier and moving back up to the surface. Yeah, he's the greatest digging it for the humans. Hey now, Asgore carries a huge weight on his shoulders, you know? Having to deal with all the unpleasantries that come with harvesting human souls is a fun job. Yeah, you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Sometimes you gotta harvest a human soul. It's you know, it's one of the things. That's one of the things. Handles it like a champ, though. I wouldn't choose anyone else to lead us to a brighter future. She's like, I don't know if to marry the guy. You know, I would if I could. Okay, well. Bits and bytes. Buy something, will ya? Thanks for your time. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Hey, I remember you. Hello. Welcome to the apartment. Leading establishment where your stay is temporary and unaffordable. I am the handlord of this complex. Please do not say you find it quite simple. It will be kicked out. I might be of service. Let me check if you have any openings. Yes, here we go. You have a platinum deluxe apartment on the top floor. The down payment will cost you about 6,500 G. Wait, you aren't even old enough to rent a room. Bring a parent or guardian next time. Oh, now hold on a second. I think I recognize you. Yeah, it's the Hat. A blue feathered monster came in and asked me to go to the roof. Wanted to meet you on the roof is what she said exactly. All I ask is please do not do anything illegal on the premises. Don't mind, the complex is quite busy today. I need to attend to other guests. Description on the fountain. Hopes and dreams. Built 2001X. I hear a faint melody coming from the statue. What, you? You can't keep it a death tally is morbid. I don't know what it could have been. Keeps you humble. Grateful for everyone who helped you get where you are. At least that's my philosophy. Blub blub. Blub blub. I apologize, we're all out of reservations tonight. A large party of ghosts right here in the kitchen doesn't know how to make ghost food. Please come back in a few days. The date is tomorrow night, but would it hurt to show up a little early? Silverware is getting cold. That's the ranking page 24. Winners of the Actually Magma Smoothie Challenge. Pyro, fastest time. Drillbee, calm and collected. Cinderhead, struggled but finished strong. Eats something. We forgot. We forgot who this is. Starlo is only trying to impress someone. Cuckoo Fire, most enthusiast. No cone, transported to the hospital. We might be able to. Metaton appears many, many times. Beautiful droplets from the sky. Produces rain. Is it magic? I wonder. Grandma always said that rain is a manifestation of the around the party. The monsters travel to waterfalls in which they were in. Those feelings are sucked up into the air and poured out across the land. From old sorrow comes new life. Soil below. If that's the case, that monster must have stood in this corner for a very long time. Ruler of the underground. What? Huh? It's got to be the best restaurant in the underground. Seriously. You can't beat the food, the service, the atmosphere. Something has always puzzled me, though. Where's the kitchen? Everything here? What's up? Enjoying the tune we're currently banging out? Hope you are, because it's the only one we're playing tonight. No request this time. Sorry, kid. Good. Okay, well, how do I make it to the roof? Oh, feathers right here. Swimming pool of champions. Garbage day, Monday. Can't reach the dump. Throw all trash bags off the cliff south of here. Lava below should do the job. Why bother with a dump? Nothing but eviction notices. Find a discarded hot dog in the trash. Take it. Not enough space. Okay, check this out. Corn chowder. You got a hot dog. Nothing but recalled gift shop products. You discover some monster candy. If only it was cinnamon. Who knows what might happen from this point forward. Continue. Continue. Let's do it. Nothing. You made it. Great. What of you? Large facility in front of us is the core. Main source of power for the underground. Behind that is new home, the capital city. I asked around and was told Sroba and Starla headed there. They ran the opposite way of the lab to Juke or sewer. We couldn't have gotten far. Positive we'll find them. We'll... It's all setting in now. This is like super intimidating, right? Not just me? I don't know when I'll get another chance, so I'll say it now. You are a kind soul, one of the best I've met. Aw. Left and right, you've been beaten and bruised, but you stay vigilant. You diffuse situations and mend relationships. Far cry from what I was taught growing up. Royal guards are told ad nauseum that humans are the enemy. I only heard stories of war in our underground prison. Ridiculous. You could change my mind on humans. I know you can change Asgard's. After we defuse this robot situation. March right up to that castle, you and me. And then, well, you'll be on your way. But don't worry about me. When monster kind is freed, we'll meet again on the surface. By then, you might be all grown up. Wouldn't that be funny? Point is, I'm glad you hopped on my raft. Okay, we need to get moving. That way. West New Home. Elevator downstairs should take us straight there. After that, not sure. Oh, backup in an area like this, but we're on our own. Outlaws. So, partner in crime, you ready? Let's bump it. Let's stop for us. For you? Seems like we're approaching the end, because that kind of seems similar to when that whole thing seemed kind of similar to like Sans is giving his judgment on you. A map of your current location sits above the bench. The ground is so much larger than you imagine. Charles, I know you've had a long day, but if the dishes in the sink aren't done, we can't eat dinner. Gonna get catch a break. Put me in doctor view all afternoon. I can barely move my fingers, let alone lather them in your weird soap. Despite a lack of visible construction, stones are quick track. They don't have the what's it called? They don't have the annoying dog face. There's a delta rune on that boat. There we go. It's rather late, isn't it? Narrows down the locations they could have gone at least. Mighty finds. Oh no, I'm closed. Come back bright and early for a scoop of nice cream. Trying to remember, club or die. If you had used another name, what name did you or names did you use? There's definitely an air of finality here. See them. This way. Robo looks distressed. So we can negotiate her down from this, but worst comes to worst, we might have to retreat. Technically, of course. Let's listen in. Leave me to my own devices, Star. I don't know what you're saying. Please calm down. I must go to the lab. That's where Kanako's being kept. I have to get there by any means necessary. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Don't get in my way. Or what? Don't kill me. Oh. Hey. Clover and I, we watched the tapes. You need to let this go. If not, why are you here, Clover? You're supposed to be back home. Oh, thank you for finding me. Makes things easier. If I were you two, I'd leave Clover here and forget about this. Might not make sense to you, but it's for the best. Cut the self-righteous act, will you? Yes. We can turn us around. Yourself, Nako is alive. Let's just find her and go back to our normal life. Maybe life? That's rich. Lied about Nako, sorry. Had to. What? Holding down is practically a death sentence. Unless a miracle takes place at that lab, there's no hope for her. I'm trying to make the best of what I can, okay? This is all I know how to do. This is all I This is all I know to do at this point. Kanako is a boss monster. She is the key to finishing Chujin's work. This is his legacy, his plan for the future. MonsterKind's only hope for survival. Don't you speak for him. You see the tapes, right? You honestly think this is what he wanted? Kanako wasn't supposed to be a factor in this. Chujin, you knew nothing of him. No, Martin's right. I've had some different views, but Chujin was kind to everyone. And I know you are as well. Just right now, I don't understand you. When I fought Clover, I was reckless. You want their soul. It's for the best. Not the Clover's. Shut up! You think I don't know how far gone I am? And where's this high horse coming from? Sounds to me like we're in this pit together. Soroba, please. Just get out of here and let me finish what I started. You can't have Clover. We're going to Asgore and that's that. Don't you dare. Martin, grab Clover. I'll keep Soroba at bay. Go, now. Oh, shit. Son of a... All right. I'm sorry for what I've done. I almost wish you never showed up in a while. I continue to bear my sorrows in this alone. But now, I must follow through with my mission. I've somehow grown to respect the hell out of you, At the end of the day, you're naive. So much you don't understand about monsters. Did you think you'd jump down here and find them? 5 humans living out their lives unharmed? That isn't how it works. I guess you discovered the truth, right? Then plan to storm Asgore's castle for revenge? Simply flee for a free ticket back to the surface. He only needs 2 more souls to shatter the barrier. Don't hesitate for a second to make that one. Who am I to criticize how he carries his business? Here I am about to do the very same thing. I'm a hypocrite, a liar, sure. At least I, with Chujin's guidance, can save countless monsters' lives. These 2 couldn't understand that. And Asgore's didn't believe my husband at all. I think the problems will just disappear if he closes the curtains. They don't? Since when? Wait, what? I thought that's how that worked. You just ignore problems and they just go away, right? That's not how... Son of a biz! Ain't that some shit? I long for freedom as much as anyone, but he doesn't consider what will happen once he gets his souls. Everyone else too. They all believe victory will come easy, but the humans I've heard of, they're powerful, ruthless. As soon as we try to leave, stuff us right back into this hellhole. They want our misery to fester until we give up and die out. No better than Asgore in skill and morality, I'm sure. But what I am is proactive. MonsterKind is worth protecting, so I will see that it is done. Truthfully, I have nothing left in life, so I've made peace throwing it away. You'll fight back, but you can't forever. Goodbye. No turning back. Okay, so this is the, this is likely, well, I say the final boss. This is likely the Asgore fight. If you remember, there's a fight after the Asgore fight. If you've ever played Undertale, if not, then I mean, I guess I've given you a hell of a spoiler. But why would you watch Undertale Yellow if you haven't played Undertale, or at least know of it? Take a breath. The world seems slow, but it's only for a moment. Ah! Okay. No turning back. The world seems slow, but only for a moment. Ah! Damn it. The robot stares into your soul with regret. Try to talk to the girl with the bird catching with is. Yo! Yo! There's nowhere to go! No problem. Need to fight the spider. Much like the team, its flavor is ambitious. Its speed is maxed out. Damn. Why? Why won't you die? I don't. Oh, good. Damn it. Why? Jeez. And the soul's being pulled to the center there, so it's not like, it's not as simple as just avoiding. You're being pulled into the center. I don't succeed, it's over. But he was maxed out. Die! Die! Ah! Shit. Looks like this is gonna be the monster we're probably gonna end stream on, but not yet. Not yet. We're close to our goal. Don't mess it up. Ah! Ah. God damn. This is that's a true bullet hell pattern right there. Damn it. Nowhere to go. I'm gonna try this one more time, and then I'm probably gonna end up having to yeah, it's gonna be 8:30. You gonna let this backstabber win? Not on my watch. I got hit, but only once. Damn it. Okay. As you need to keep your guard up at all times. Don't buy into Soropa's stop stories. As per tradition at this point, I don't know how long something has to continue before it's a tradition. But I beat one boss. I go through the area, lose to that boss. Can't beat him on that night, or her in this case, him or her, whatever. Can't beat that boss. Come back on next stream and beat them, and then clear the next area. Now, I'm pretty sure this is pretty damn close to the end. So, I mean, there might be another boss. There might be. I wouldn't entirely be surprised if there's a Photoshop Flowey type fight after this. I don't know if it's Flowey himself. I'm just saying. I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming up. But what I am going to do is I am going to on Twitch. I am going to look for somebody to raid for Kick, and this will be the end of stream. If you're watching this on a VOD, stream will be coming to an end, and it, you know, if you're watching Twitch, Kick, or on YouTube. Blubber Die, thank you for stopping by. Like I said, unfortunately, my memory is the ass. Okay, it is ass. So, but I do want to thank you for coming by. Anybody else out there who watched this at any point, whenever, however it is that you are watching this, I thank you for doing so. And you know, we're just gonna keep trying to improve from here. You know, we're gonna keep trying to improve, keep trying to do more and better stuff from this point forward. So, I think on here, I think, I do not want to. Okay, it's gonna give me that damn circle bullshit. I don't want it to give me that. Okay, I might not be able to raid anybody because Twitch is being a little biatch like that. Let's see. Oh, it came up. Never mind. It came up. It came up. All right. So I will be again watching this live on Twitch. I'll be raiding Gutnot. He is playing Elden Ring. Out, and I will be back on most likely. Well, I will be back on next Wednesday. Again, weekends, and I've said this a few times, and it's like we'll see how I feel. I know this weekend I'm pretty goddamn busy, so the odds that I'm gonna be streaming at any point over this next weekend are slim to none. But so look for me back here next Wednesday again, 6 p.m. ish Pacific. I was a little late starting here tonight because of some light tech issues. Hopefully, you know, those tech issues will not be an issue. And again, I'm just trying to work to improve what we're doing here. So, yeah, like I said, anytime, any place, any way that you are watching this, I thank you for doing so. Thank you for supporting. My name is Joseph, and we are out this week.